first heard of Mosab several years ago when I saw him being interviewed on Fox News, and his story has always intrigued me since. Mosab was born on the West Bank of Ramallah in 1978. His father, Sheikh Hassan Yousef, is the founder of Hamas, an infamous terrorist organization responsible for countless suicide bombings and other deadly attacks against Israel. Yousef was an integral part of the movement and was imprisoned several times by the Israeli intelligence service. He withstood torture in prison only to discover Hamas was torturing its own people in an endless search for collaborators. He began to question who his enemies really were: Israel, Hamas, America. After a random chance encounter with a British tourist, Yousef started a 6-year quest that jeopardized Hamas, endangered his family, and threatened his life. He has since embraced the Christian faith and at a time sought political asylum in America. Mosab's mission is to share his story so Christians and Jews can stand in solidarity against the evils of Hamas and others. And we are so excited to welcome him in person tonight. Would you give a warm Seattle welcome to our friend, Mosab? Check.
Thank you. Wow. Well, I need a very loud mic. You're supercharged. And I'm terrified. Is this a church? But I guess we are at war. You know, and this is what happens during war. And I hope that we are not driven by fear. Also, I hope that we are not driven by anger. Because the other side is driven by revenge and hatred. I hope that we are driven by justice and by the power of love. Such a difficult time. And I'm trying to stay calm. But it's not easy. It's not easy because it's a responsibility, especially for a person like myself. I have lived so many sides of this conflict, of this paradox. And my life adventure took me so many places. I was born in Islam, like many of you know. For those who don't, I was born for a Muslim family. You can say that I came through them, definitely not from them. And I love my parents. I honor my parents, and I will honor them until the last day, until the last breath, regardless where they stand or what they do. You know, as they said, my father is one of the founders of Hamas, and he's still one of their leaders. And I witnessed Hamas Evolution. Since I was a child, I had questions about Hamas. And my father always had answers. And I was not satisfied with them. At the beginning, it was just an idea, a point of view. He was very excited about it. Then it grew. Then it became a little bit aggressive, then more aggressive, then violent. Then it went out of control, completely out of his control. Where a new generation came and took over the movement. And I saw how little he became, shrinking slowly and slowly. But this is your idea. You established the thing. It's your project. How come you don't have control over it? When I convinced him that a ceasefire was very important, he had no clue what motivated me or where I stood morally and consciously. I could not tell him the truth because I was the only protector that he had. And it's very hard when my father, who was supposed to be my protector, that it was all the way around that I had to protect him from himself, from the choices that he was making. But I could not tell him why. I saved his life again and again and again, and he had no clue. Not only his life, many people's lives among the Palestinian people. And what they did in return, they shunned me. Why? Because I went against their flow. How could I say yes to a suicide bomber going into a university, bus, market, beach, blowing himself up and killing all type of people? Muslims, Christians, Americans, Jews, Israelis, all type of people died in suicide bombing attacks. I did not see that this could be from God. So I did what I did. And I did not have a problem with it. I was always at peace with the choices I was making, even though I was alone. And I knew that I was going against the flow of my society. To them, it was a treason. And it was not the first time they had rejected me. While Israel have accepted me. When I say accepted me, I don't mean they validate me as individual. But there is no one in Israel that have not extended a hand and said thank you for who you are. While I cannot see my own mother, and if I attempt to go see my mother, my people would stab me to death. Farther, my siblings, my brothers, won't hesitate to kill me because of their shame. So how am I supposed to feel? Living this reality and making such choices in a minefield. Human cruelty, misperception of reality and truth. While somebody say, then what is the truth? I say the truth is not based on our sense of right and wrong, because this could change from the morning to the evening. You see someone who's a believer in the morning, then in the evening they disbelieve. They love this hour, then they hate the next hour. That cannot be truth. Truth is based on the universal laws of cause and effect. Nothing goes in void. It's the perfect system. And every individual is responsible for our own actions, because we are accountable to our own consciousness, because we know what motivated us, if we are honest to ask. And if we have the power to let go and to drop our desire and our lust for power. Well, Hamas is not to this side of truth. Anybody can argue, say, this is not the side of truth, but I prefer to be here. I don't want to be on the other side. And I will actually resist the other side that is lustful for territory, for power, to dominate, to kill. Like mad dogs, street dogs, marking their territory, pissing all over the place, say, this is mine. My land. It's not your land. It's no one's land. It belongs to the divine. Hence, I don't accept that. I cannot be part of that, even if it meant to die. You don't want to give me the security of the family because of the choices I make. You want to accuse me of treason. Go ahead, all the way to crucifixion. All the way. I won't be the first one. I won't be the first one, and I will not be the last one. And the truth of this, there is no resurrection without crucifixion. Otherwise, we'll just be slaves and swayed by the opinion of the majority, the agreeable. Wherever the flow of the society go, we go. We never learn how to swim against the current. But those who know how to swim against the current, those are the ones who develop strength. So I end up alone. I moved to the United States, and I had no idea about the diversity of this is right and this is left and this is conservative and this is liberal and this is Fox News and this is CNN. Had no clue. Just a Palestinian kid, moved to the United States. And I came to tell the truth of Hamas. By the way, I was not discovered by my father or my people that I actually worked for Israel for 10 years. I myself wrote a book about it, because I wanted to be honest with them. That, first of all, I did not feel that I did anything wrong. And I wanted them to step into my shoes and see reality through my lens and all the things that I had to witness, because I could not share with any one of them. So I wrote the book. And as a result, my father immediately disowned me. He simply said, his blood is allowed. If you want to kill him, I will not come after you. And during that time was the most difficult time of my life. So instead of what so-called liberal media see the potential of someone who fought against so many odds for their own freedom, even if I did not have the perfect understanding of truth. Nobody does and nobody will. But at least there was a good fight there. Instead of seeing the potential, you know what they did? They killed it. They did not want to see it grow because it contradicted their theory. So I got caught up in the fire of US politics. And instead of bringing the truth of such a brutal organization, I got canceled. I got attacked not only from liberal media, also from conservative parties, from ex-Muslims. You know, one of them said that I'm just an or a double agent. And everybody started believing him. Then other churches tried to profile me. They wanted me to be like them. But I'm different. I cannot be like you. You know, I may submit to the creator of the universe and consider you just as a fellow traveler on the same path towards truth, but I am an individualized expression of the divine that is completely different than you. So why do you want me to be on your image? Just like the same way you want God to be on your image. While you know the truth that God created man on his image, not the opposite. So then also the church was a dead end. And this is why tonight I accept to speak to a church. This is the first time actually in many years I speak to a church. Yeah. So the reason, because I study history, and especially the history of the Holocaust. The Nazis infiltrated, they did not infiltrate the government at the beginning. They started infiltrating the church. This is where they started their movement. And once they took over the church, it became possible for them to do whatever they did later. This is a fact. So today when I look at the United States, and I know that the church, you know, regardless of many different denominations, many different point of views, and lots of confusion, there is so much theory, but there is not practice. You know, and there is so much talk, but I'm not seeing action. And there is lots of talk about truth, but I am not seeing the truth. So the time has come, in my opinion, for the church to rise. And I tell you why. I tell you why. Because we are anchored somewhere in what we think is true or truth. At least there is an anchor. And I need this type of warriors who are anchored. I cannot count on those clowns swayed by all type of theories, projecting whatever hatred they have, not knowing what they are doing. At least those who know how to surrender, at least in principle. I'm not saying that we are righteous, but if we know how to surrender and say, I drop my ego momentarily, even for a moment of my day, to a superior power, or to, if we know it, we have the authority to say, to the supreme power. Those who know. Below, at least they can say, I surrender, and they have some image of God in their imagination. I can trust those. not the ones who are driven by their interest only, without an anchor, without a moral compass, without a constitution, without a protocol. They just serve so many masters. Hence, the role of the church, especially in the United States, is significant at this stage of this conflict. We have a very deadly enemy. They're very dangerous. They're brutal. And they're out for destruction. In order to eradicate them, there is going to be more destruction. And I know it's very hard, because sometimes there is no way to achieve peace but through the use of force. Of course, we don't want the use of force to be the first option, not the second option. It's always the last option, the last resort. And of course, anybody can claim to say, I have no other option, I have to use the force. But now, I tell you that we are left with no other option but to stop this enemy. And if we don't counter them, they will become more aggressive. They will misunderstand our tolerance. And they will think that we are weak. I was very pleased before I entered here, and this might sound a bit strange, but the United States finally deployed a nuclear submarine into the Middle East. And they made it very clear. This is fresh now. And I advised about 2 weeks ago that this is the right thing to do. And I'm not saying that we're going to use a nuclear weapon. Hopefully not. I hope that we will not get to that degree. But sometimes showing the stick to a language that does not understand but the language of the sword. Like this war, Israel did not start. Israel was at the most religious holiday. And they took advantage of that. Killing so many innocent people. Not only Israelis, Thai workers, American citizens, people partying. Like, who kills a DJ? Didn't they realize once you kill a DJ, you kill the music, and once you kill the music, party is over? They killed the party. Only Hamas could do that. And I'm not saying, that the Western civilization has answered all human problems. We didn't. We cannot. As long as we are still humans, we cannot. We need the rule of the law. We need order. The alternative to order is chaos. Israel in the Middle East represents order. It's not a perfect country. Hamas represents chaos. If I had to choose between imperfect country, political entity, or chaos, for myself, for my neighbor, for my friends, for my children, I choose a place where there is order. Not a place where there is absolute control of power, driven by hatred and human delusion. Hence, we say no to Hamas. That's not an option. Has nothing to do, that this is Christian, this is Jewish versus Muslim. Even though Hamas is rooted in Islam. And some people say, hey, be careful. We don't want to start a religious war. This is what they said 20 years ago when I came and said, why are you going only after Bin Laden? You consider Bin Laden a terrorist. Well, how about the God that Bin Laden worships? And this is when I got canceled. But I kept saying it for a long time. And we need to understand the ideological depth that motivates such a group. We cannot be in denial just because we don't want to piss the Muslims off. We're afraid of them because they're very powerful and they control, fields of energy, oil, economy, and also they are willing to blow things up. So governments are scared of them. But I wasn't. And I still not. Because they cannot, they... Sorry, like, I hope you don't misunderstand. It's just like I'm one of them somehow. When people see me, sometimes like they see this rage, coming forward. It's like, is this you? Like I had some, especially female friends, who knew me for many years, and I barely speak or share anything. I never talk about politics, in the past few years. And they know me just as someone who just having fun, free diving, doing like all the silly stuff. Then they saw me suddenly, after the war, I was like sending me a message, is this you? They could not believe it. I was like, yes, this is an aspect of myself. If I have to be that, if this is the only vibration I can create so some people can understand, then yes, be it. If I am left with no choice but violence, then I'm not afraid of violence. It was words. I gave them words, the simple truth. They rejected. The words could turn to bullets sometimes, but they're still in denial. Then it could develop into a bomb, and they are still in denial. Then it could develop into something much greater, and I'm not afraid of destruction. Why? Because there is no creation without destruction. Two opposing forces, and they have to be paired. And now we are in the destruction phase. I'm not talking about destroying humanity. Somebody said that this is not the end. There is no such a thing as the end. Life is infinite, with infinite possibilities. But there is the rise of force and there is the fall of another. And now it's up to us. We need to decide. We can stop this war right at the Gaza front. Hamas has to be removed from power. End of the story. And if Hamas is removed from power, I think the region can be a more peaceful place. But if Iran wants to get on board, Hezbollah, and they want a bigger war, then there is going to be a regional war. Then could be World War III. You study a lot about the Armageddon, it's a possibility. And it's not like somewhere in the future or in the past. It just happens, it's happening. As you know, death does not happen at some point in the future. The process begins from the moment of birth. Now the question, how do we accept death? Are we in denial, or are we accepting the universal design? So now, lots of peacemakers, they want to be in denial. They want us to escape our responsibility and say, this is not my business as an American. I don't want my money as a taxpayer to go to Israel, etc. This is not how it works. The United States is the most powerful country, most powerful army, most powerful intelligence service. Therefore, it has a responsibility towards the rest of the world. And our absence from the Middle East means an absolute chaos. That's going to affect the entire globe and its security. So, deploying a nuclear weapon near Iran is a very clear message. It's a very clear message, not only to Iran, but to the one who's creating all this mess, who's trying to change the world order, Putin. And it's not a secret. It's known, Putin, China, North Korea, Iran, and some other political entities inferior in power. They don't want the American monopoly over power. So simply, they want a new world order. And I don't think they qualify. I have lots of Russian friends. I know many people from the East. I'm familiar with their cultures, with their society. But I think the American Constitution up to this point could be, I don't want to say is, but could be the greatest civil constitution out there. So if somebody brings me a superior, more integrated system, and they can convince me, then I may compare and say, okay, I advance this, but for now, I say America. For now, I say Israel. Very good models, okay? They're not perfect. I don't want them to be perfect. I don't expect them to be perfect. So it's our choice. If we want the war to stop tomorrow, the war will stop tomorrow, but not by saying just cease fire. You know what Hamas learned from the past 3 wars? That the world will beg for a ceasefire very fast. This is what they have been counting on. They use children and women, civilians, as human shields, knowing that there are going to be great civilian casualties. Then they are counting on people like the pro-Palestine movement, who are so terrified to see bloodshed. As you know, Israel started this. And they knew that the world would blame Israel for the death of many innocent people, not Hamas. This is why Hamas thought that the public pressure will force Israel to cease fire, and they would get away with their crime. But here is what ceasefire actually means for Hamas, from Hamas, through Hamas lens, let's say. Their perception of a ceasefire means that the world will let Hamas get away with their crime. That next time you can just go into communities, wipe out everybody, rape women, kill children, destroy everything in your way, kidnap people, including women, children, elders, and there is a big chance that you will get away with it. And whatever you want, what's your demand? More power, more territory, more guns, we are gonna give you that. You want a truce for 10 years so you can build your military and come back 10 times stronger? We'll guarantee you that. Why? Because we are weak. Why? Because we are influenced by the opinion of a majority. Hence, the majority in situations like this don't decide. This is when democracy ends. This is very dangerous. Nobody would dare to say this, but I can. Democracy is only a cure. It's a cure to a human disease. Why? Because we struggle to see things for what they are. I include myself. That my mind is limited. I don't see everything. So if I want to leave it to the opinion of majority, then there is a big chance it would be another rise of Nazism, which would lead to another Holocaust. And the majority have decided, no? So in this situation, the decision is for the sacred warriors who have the capacity to discern falsehood from truth. Those are the true rulers, not only of earth, but the universe. The ones who are possessed by Christ consciousness, with no attachment to nothing, no desire, no selfish interest. They're driven only by justice, by truth, by love. One of those carrying the torch can bring light to so many people who surrender to darkness. And this is what's happening today. If they want only the language of the sword, then be it. If they want peace, then peace is the way. This is all I wanted to share with you tonight, and I think we have Q&A after this. Are we ready for that? Thank you so much for listening.
Mosab and I are going to talk a little on stage. And then tomorrow night at Pursuit Snohomish, which is our campus up north, about 40 minutes from here, we are going to be hosting the premiere of a movie called The Green Prince, which was a documentary made about Mosab's life. It goes in depth, in great detail, about his story, his journey with Israeli intelligence services, and is just really eye-opening. And then afterwards, we'll be doing a Q&A as well as a book signing. So for those of you who are interested in getting a signed copy of Mosab's autobiography, it's going to be available tomorrow night at Pursuit Snohomish. We have limited copies, but I promise you won't want to miss that event. Hey, let me share something just real briefly off the top, and I think it's very important for our Pursuit people, our church people to hear me tonight. It's very important. One of the values of our house is that we want to honor where people are at on their faith journey, even if they aren't in the exact position we're in today. Because here's the reality. Listen, you're a work in progress. I got 3 amens, but that's true. You're a work in progress. And what I try to do in my life and in this community, I'm praying for people and working with people all the time. They're not where I'm at. After 30 years of following the Lord, they're not where I'm at. But I want to work with them where they're at on their faith journey, because I believe that God gives grace to where we're at and continues to lead us. The scripture says, watch, the Spirit will lead us to what? Into all truth. I was having a conversation with my nine-year-old the other day, and he asked me, do you think God has laser eyes? I said, what do you mean? So I was watching a movie and I saw a superhero with laser eyes. Do you think God has laser eyes? And I was like, I've never read that in the Bible, so I'm not sure, Matthew. But whatever he has is probably a little better than laser eyes. So I don't sit with him and rebuke him and get all upset because he doesn't understand every piece of theology that I have after years of study and things of that. But I honor where he's at on the journey. And I think it's important for us tonight to recognize that when God begins to work in a person's heart, begins to transform their life, that there's a process of awakening and a process of faith that they go through. And in doing so, the best thing that we can do is encourage and cheer people along. Keep going, keep walking, keep searching, because I'm confident that God is a lot better at doing his job than we are at trying to do his job. We have this all the time, even when I invite guest speakers from different traditions, different denominations. Some are more prophetic, more apostolic, more evangelistic, and well, they don't talk exactly like you. Yeah, that's the point. You get me all the time. You're sick of me. And what we try to do is introduce and expose people here in this community so we can honor where they're at on their journey of faith, and in doing so, encourage them. I was so encouraged tonight to hear Mosab say, it's been years since I spoke in a church, but I'm glad to be here tonight. And for me as a pastor who leads a church, it's sad to hear that when a person is coming out of all sorts of crazy backgrounds that, by the way, you and I literally could never understand. I know you think your life is tough because Starbucks is, the line was long at the drive-thru, okay? But your life is not tough. And it grieves me literally as a pastor to hear that churches would try to castigate or turn against Mosab because he might not be exactly where they're at that very moment. What if we just encourage people with where they're at and cheered them on to keep going? Why? Because that's what God's done for you. Listen, this is no secret. I'm an unapologetic believer in Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except by him. And at the same time, what I'm willing to do is work alongside people from all sorts of different backgrounds to become all things to all men that we might win some, to display the kindness and goodness of God. And in doing so, cheer people on. I think most people in our world, honestly, are one discouragement away from giving up, or one encouragement away from making it. And I really believe that it's not just important that Mosab is speaking to our church tonight, but I think it's important even that he's here, because I think that our community can add that layer of encouragement to say thank you for being a bold and a strong voice.
Thank you.
And I assume, Mosab, this will probably be a church experience you don't soon forget. And we're just so excited for you to be here. I wondered if you'd share a little bit more tonight, just in regards to kind of your perspective as you came out of the West Bank and you began to realize, even as your biography states, who are we really fighting and who's the real enemy here, and who are the real people who are championing human rights. And all of a sudden you begin to have a shift in your mind in the way that you thought about the affairs of life. And that led you on a journey of being in contact with the Israeli government, writing your book, and a movie being made, and all of a sudden everybody trying to track you down to do media interviews and things of that nature. Your life has been really a whirlwind tour over the last decade. But I think when Mosab speaks to these issues, he probably is the most profound voice on this topic that we have in the world today. Nobody else has this experience. And to me, I just think it's a miracle. It's just a miracle. I mean, really, it's like a testament to the power of God, that God would take someone with your experience, your home life, your family, what you grew up seeing, what you were a part of, and now make you a voice in support of freedom and in particular the Jewish people. What were some of the things that you saw growing up, or some of the things that you kind of became aware of where you started to say, hey, something's not right here. Something's not right. This type of ideology is gonna lead our people into a dead end. What are some of the things, significant moments, experiences, things that you saw, maybe friends' lives being lost, things of that nature? What are some of those kind of highlight moments in your life as you begin to make that transition from son of Hamas to now advocate on behalf of the Jewish people?
Am I? I don't advocate, on behalf of anybody. This is the truth. I'm just myself. If I to reduce myself to just a spokesperson of any people, I wouldn't be here sitting tonight. But I love the Jewish people, and I truly, I really do. I really do. Today I have nephews in Israel. When I go to their house, they refuse, to let me sleep on the floor. So they insist to sleep on the floor and give me the bed. And I'm talking about a 5-year-old. I'm talking about like an infant as well, that I observed him grow over the past 15 years now. Is already in the army now. So, like, I have a nephew in this war. I have nieces that they're affected by this war. I have so many beautiful Jewish families that I met, that I shared with them bread, and we cried together, we laughed together. So the bond is beyond political, to advocate on behalf of the Jewish people. If anybody touch the Jewish people, they touch me somehow. And of course, I'm going to be outrageous. And of course, I will bring fire. Infinite fire. Man cannot put down. Okay, I don't want to reveal too much. Seriously. So, Israel, such a great nation, and I did not see anything wrong from them, Looking at Israel as democracy, well-organized country, very creative people, contributed so much to the human life and to the human evolution. Such a small nation with great contribution. How can anybody be in denial? Even all those using the social media, etc., technology, where did that all come from? If we trace it, look at the science credits that goes to the Jewish people, But somehow we managed to use it against them, no? We're very clever. So I did not like my father's approach and his movement, because his movement's approach is to annihilate the state of Israel. It is not like, okay, we defend our children. Because here is the difference. If you're a father and somebody came into your house and you had a gun, and they may hurt you, would you risk the lives of your children and try to shoot at this predator? Or would you surrender to protect your children? A good father, a good dad, is willing to die in order to save his children, not to risk the lives of his children for his political gamble.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's true.
And plus, at what cost? So Hamas ideology, you want to annihilate the state of Israel? Okay, they wanted to relocate 10 million people who were born in that land.
Right.
And I think, many people say, this is my land because my ancestors, etc. Okay, you can believe whatever. It's in the Bible. Believe whatever. But the truth, anyone who's born in that land has the birthright to that land. It's a birthright. So, millions of people were born in that land. Nobody has the authority to them relocate because your ancestors came, from Poland, go back to Poland. What's in Poland? This is my land, this is my country. That's all I know. There is no other place to go. Then point a gun at them and say, if you don't do it, I'm going to kill you. When they defend themselves, you become angrier. This is Hamas, and this is Israel. Much smaller scale. So I saw that my father would suffer, my family would suffer, our people would suffer for eternity in a vicious cycle of violence that will never end. So simply I said no to that. I don't like the idea. If it means that I struggle my entire life to just take power over a territory, self-destruction, this is not a life I wanted. So they can consider me as selfish, that I love life very much.
It's powerful. I think, Mosab, that as the conflict wages on between Israel and Hamas, there are some even in our own government, the United States government, obviously they're pushing for a ceasefire, things like this. And they're wanting Israel to formally begin to negotiate with Hamas, thinking maybe there can be a peace treaty or we can figure things out. And it would seem like the history of this conflict would prove otherwise, that is in fact not true. And when you hear politicians of either party saying things of this nature, it seems like most of the time it's from a fundamental misunderstanding of the gravity of that conflict. The idea that, well, if you just kind of sit down at the table and we're just gonna figure it out and you stay here and we'll stay there and we'll make it work. What is your kind of reaction, your thoughts when you hear people in our media talking like that, trying to maybe with a amount of political pressure try to lean on Israel or their government to formalize some sort of peace deal, peace treaty, or formalize relations with Hamas and this threat that is ongoing?
If Hamas was a political movement, then yes, negotiations could be the solution. But Hamas is a religious movement. No political value or price can satisfy their religious ambition because they want the Holy Land. They want Al-Aqsa Mosque. And they want the relocation of more than 10 million people, go somewhere else. It's not Hamas' problem where they go. So how can you negotiate with somebody who has this mindset? And what's the outcome? This is why democracies don't negotiate with terrorist groups, because if they haven't dropped the use of force as a mean to achieve their political goals, then democracies cannot negotiate with them, because democracy is based not on the use of force. It has an army to protect it, it has police, but it's based on dialogue and the power of reason, not the power of the gun only. And Hamas is a terrorist group by all standards. Actually, a terrorist group is an understatement, because what they did on October 7th and what they did before is barbaric. You know, such a setback. They put a setback in the human consciousness. They brought us back to the Stone Age with their barbaric act. And the people who now just, want ceasefire and want to negotiate, etc. I say, if you don't know how to fight, step on the side. Let those who know how to fight get the job done. Then after that, there will be time for negotiations.
One of the things that I think has shocked me, and maybe I shouldn't have been so shocked, but when we turn on the news, you're seeing these massive rallies and protests in support of Hamas. I saw them even waving flags with the hang gliders on the flags, showing the terrorist attack on October 7th. And we're seeing some of these major rallies, especially in Western Europe, but also here in the United States, college campuses, major cities, Seattle, LA, New York, places like this. And for me, I guess I'm stuck with the question, how did we get here? Where people are either so foolish or so misinformed or so blinded. It's one thing to be neutral. It's another thing to stand in vocal support. I don't know if you saw the videos of this even happened here at the UW. They put up posters of the missing children on the telephone poles. And the pro-Hamas protesters tore down the pictures of the children. And as we've seen these things break out across the states, but especially in Western Europe, I think many people in our community are just shocked. We have no words for how we got here. And as you're seeing some of these things unfold, what is your perspective on these events and this changing in the way that people think? Maybe they've always been like that. It's just more public now. I'm not sure. But it feels like there has been a shift, an ideological shift to the dark side. And I just was wondering a little bit on your perspective as you see these things.
Think about it. How many? Were they they did not even reach the point of 1 million. Have they? Not even the biggest Muslim country, Indonesia, they were able to collect less than 1 million. And that's a country of 120 or 130 million Muslims, the biggest Muslim country. In the United States, how many they have? Few thousands, tens of thousands in Washington, D.C. The United States of America is 300 million. They are not a majority, but they are angry. And their anger is, they are outrageous. So they may sound huge, but not to me. And of course, we don't want to go down to this level and to just prove a point. You just did an Israel thing, and that's amazing, actually, really. On behalf of my Israeli nephews, I say thank you for doing that. And at some point, even if we have a majority of clowns, of zombies, out of spirit, out of consciousness, with no life force, with no chakra system, totally stuck in desire and in hatred. Well, thank God we have a very strong army. And most of our army is not coming from liberal states. It's coming from the south. Okay, I didn't mean to go dirty. I love all people, even the liberals, I have no problem. I think they're just humans. But human is not enough.
One of the things that is being talked about is obviously over the last number of decades since Hamas came into power in the Gaza Strip in 2006. There have been a number of conflicts, skirmishes, almost wars, but not quite full war. And as people who are strategists and who kind of function in that realm have gathered, it seems like the resounding feedback for Israel and the IDF in this season is that if they don't take this opportunity to fundamentally cause these terrorist organizations to cease to exist, that they are only setting themselves up for this cycle to continue to repeat. And as you see the conflict and as you have insight that many of us obviously in this room do not have, how do you see that concept unfolding? And just maybe share your thoughts a little bit on this moment being a very strategic moment. I think Prime Minister Netanyahu was making a speech to the nation a few days ago. He quoted the prophet Isaiah. And
very smart.
Very smart. And he shared with the crowd, we will fulfill and complete these words that were spoken, obviously, as he works to try to defend the nation and its right to self-exist. But how do you see that or understand that concept of this is a very strategic hour for Israel to finally deal with the totality of what Hamas represents, lest they only cut off the fruit for it to regrow again in the next season?
I didn't think that they will grow again, not in this century. It's finished for them. Possibly next century, I don't know what form they will adapt. But this time is finished. Hamas is certainly defeated. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy job. It's easy to sit here and talk about it. As we speak right now, there are fighters on our behalf in the scope of Hamas fire, where they're shooting deadly weapons, lethal weapons on those soldiers who had to live a normal life, a successful business or family, children, and they had to go on this front to fight on behalf of Israel and to fight on behalf of our freedoms, behalf of all the defenseless in the world, and on behalf of the idiots protesting on campuses. Now, I tell you why Hamas is finished. Hamas is finished not because they went against Israel only, because they went against the supreme design. They went against God, against God's grace. With the small power they had, they abused. And power is not given to those who abuse. And power is not given to those who are lustful for power, lustful for territory. Say, this is mine. Because everything belongs to God. You know, they don't even own their own bodies. They don't have authority over their own body, mind, to claim that they qualify to take over earth and be God's sword on earth. So this is their falsehood. This is their delusion. Then they did not stop there. The unforgivable crime of Hamas that I cannot let go is not only the attacks on Israel on October 7th. It's their use of children, women as human shields. It's their gamble of an entire society that is defenseless in order to achieve their political agendas. Here resides their destruction in this aspect. I cannot let go of this. It's not a political issue, it's a fundamental problem that I have with Hamas. In practice, Israel has no other option. If they don't remove Hamas from power, at least remove Hamas from power. I don't want to say destroy Hamas, because this requires a lot more than a military job. But if we don't remove them from power, we are in trouble. There will be more war, and the next war is going to be deadlier. And we will give many other groups the impression that we can bend under intimidation of terrorists as democracy, that we are afraid, and when we are pressured, we will negotiate, we will submit to their violence. And that's not acceptable. It doesn't matter what the majority is thinking. Hence, we have to respond. We are responding. We did not initiate this war. Then in war, people die. For all those who are afraid to die, project their fear and their denial on the cause. It becomes their cause. Why? Because they are afraid to die. They don't want to accept death as part of life. They want only to accept birth. But death, they stick their head in the sand all the way to the grave. That's their denial. But that's not the way of life. Hence, death is happening now. Destruction is happening. It's part of evolution. You know, the ocean sometimes very calm, very peaceful, and sometimes there is a tsunami. Can you say, you know, when it's very nice and blue, this is God, and when it's very aggressive and destructive, you can say this is not God? Everything goes according laws. And again, as I said, cause and effect, you know, not right and wrong. Right or wrong, everybody can have a point of view, you know, but cause and effect. Hamas initiated the war. That was the cause. What we are witnessing now is the effect of that war. Israel does not target civilians. Bottom line, 10 years I was part of the Israeli intelligence operation, and I know. And I trust Israel 100%, 1,000,000%, that does not have the intention to target civilians. But Israel is not responsible and cannot be responsible for the harm that happens to civilians when Hamas used them as human shields. I conclude with this. So now where we at? Where we at on the ground? Israel, the IDF successfully cut the Gaza Strip in two parts. We're able to evacuate many civilians from north to the south. The civilians who choose to stay up north, this is also not Israel's responsibility. If any harm happened to them, they had the opportunity more than 21 days to evacuate. And everybody was screaming out loud, this is not a joke, evacuate. And they choose to give Hamas cover. If they die with Hamas, it's not Israel to blame. So now Israel cut the strip. They controlled Al-Rashid Street. This is the beach road. Salah ad-Din Road. This is the central road. And they control the inner land with ground fire. Gaza is considered evacuated civilians who's staying there, so attached to their property, they brought death upon themselves. Now, the phase that we are going to see. The good news, Israel has about 1,500 Hamas terrorists who were arrested during the attacks on October 7th. And this is what we did not have. We did not have HUMINT, which is the human source. We had lots of technology, and Hamas deceived us by this technology. That we thought, okay, we don't need to recruit somebody inside Hamas. It was very hard to have somebody inside the tunnels, so we relied so much on technology, trying to read Hamas move, and they deceived us for about 2 years, posing something else. So the eve of October 7th, we did not have intelligence coming from a human eye that can feel, that can see, that can analyze, and brought the information to the intelligence. If we had just one source, would have been much better than all the technology that we had. So what changed after October 7th, that we have about 1,500 terrorists who have been confessing. Locations of tunnels, tunnel mouths, which tunnels has big bunkers that could have the hostages, and many other secrets on Hamas. Hamas did not see this coming. Okay, and this is where Israel has the power now. This intelligence hub that is happening right now, Unit 504, been activated. It has been all along Unit 8200, that's technology. So now we are going back to the old-fashioned HUMINT. Bring information from human beings who are confessing and bringing us information so we can understand the brain of Hamas. This is happening as we speak now. Hence, this is why the IDF is taking its time to move, and they are successful of cutting the strip. I call it a ring of fire. This ring of fire, unbreachable siege, where Hamas would be depleted, starved, and annihilated, buried in the tunnels they themselves dug.
I think a question that I've heard from a lot in our community, and just so you know, tomorrow night, after we show the movie, we're going to be hosting a Q&A, but it will be your opportunity to ask questions. So if you're here tonight and you have a question and it's burning in your heart and you'd love Mosab's insight on it, you want to come tomorrow night, because we're going to make time for that. But Mosab, would you share maybe a little bit, because one of the questions that I've received quite a bit from people who just don't understand is, why would none of Gaza's neighbors, Muslim majority nations, Egypt, others, why do they refuse to take the people who are trying to leave, or Hamas militants who are trying to escape? From what you understand about the conflict and the culture, help us understand on our side of things why they refuse to be given passage to some of these other nations that surround them.
You know, Arab countries had many Palestinian refugees, and Palestinian refugees created all type of chaos. Even though Palestinians also were considered as a manpower or a working force in the Arab countries. And I think what they're afraid of, that if we let the refugees of Gaza relocate, this means that the Palestinian cause will die forever. So they want the people to stay, so the Palestinian cause continues. It doesn't matter how many people are going to die. Why? Because all of them profit from the conflict. It's not a surprise. You know, I could take advantage of the conflict if I want. Why not? You know how many people make profit out of wars? It's big business, much bigger than peacemaking. In peacemaking, you don't make lots of money for many people, you know, only in wartime. So, war. Think about it, the Palestinian Authority leadership. If there was no war, what's the need for them? You know, they've been busy trying to destroy the state of Israel, not to build the Palestinian state. You know, and if you take this cause from them, they're left with no agendas. And they have to be replaced with a new generation that believes in creation, not destruction. Because they're not willing to put the effort. It takes effort to build a nation. You know, and it takes selfless leadership. Not so attached, you know, to their status. So in Egypt, they have many calculations. I guarantee you that Sisi of Egypt and the Jordanian king, Saudi Arabia, a bunch of other Arab intelligence services and governments, they don't want Hamas. They want Hamas finished. This is in the secret meetings and the secret phone calls, finish them. You know, but in public, they're hypocrites. They go on inciting against Israel. So they don't appear to be participating with the occupation against the people. Because everybody also in Jordan, you know, when the queen goes and says like, you know, we are devastated by the violence in Gaza. What do you mean you're devastated? You don't care. Come on. You know, you gotta be one of them in order to really care. And she's a Palestinian, by the way. That one of the Gaza children, like who's living the atrocity, to identify with that, to say it's like, you know, I care. Anyway, but they have about 2.5 million or 3 million Palestinians in Jordan. The majority of Jordanians are actually Palestinians. And if the queen and the king don't sympathize with the cause, they're afraid people would overthrow them. So hence everyone's interest. You know, am I profiting from this? What's my next move? They're not thinking about saving the children. Of course, whatever it takes. If it was up to me, open the border. I don't want to see Gaza anymore. I want Gaza to cease to exist. If it was up to me. Because Gaza is a giant refugee camp that has lasted more than 70 years. Should have been demolished 70 years ago. But the United Nations kept promising the people that you will return to your land and you're going to have all the promises of life. And they kept striving and struggling, dying from bad to worse, like that. So it's in the interest of many people to keep this conflict going. And this is where Israel today, if they finish Hamas, and I hope it does not come on a very high price. I try to finish with this because I think people are getting tired and tomorrow we can continue. Here's the thing. After 1967 war, okay, when the Arab countries united, tried to annihilate the state of Israel, Israel was extremely outnumbered in that war. And the surprise was that Israel had a victory over the many Arab countries. As a result of that war, Israel controlled the Jordanian Valley, including Jerusalem, Sinai, the Golan Heights. Arabs did not accept defeat. They thought, no, we will try again later. And they just keep trying until today. Instead of saying, we lost the war, and the victors write or set the terms to the defeated. Because a Palestine, in principle, was given to the Arabs prior to the 1967 war. But the Arabs said no. They said, our condition, we destroy the state of Israel first, then we can build a Palestinian state on the rubble of the state of Israel. Wow. And this is why they said no to the United Nations resolution to establish a Palestinian state that could live as neighbor with the state of Israel. Wow. So they choose to go to the 1967 war, and they lost the war. Right. But then they insist on writing the terms and the conditions to the victor. Right. Well, you cannot do this. Only victors write history. Sorry. Okay, and now, with this I finish. And now we are in the same situation. They started the war with Israel on October 7th. And I say, the future of Gaza is in the hands of the victor. The victor only set the terms to the defeated. So if Israel defeat Hamas in Gaza, and as an outcome of this defeat, there won't be Gaza, no one should or dare to blame Israel for whatever they are going to do.
Come on, can we thank Mosab for being with us this evening in Seattle? Awesome.